Welcome back. We are in chapter 7 today, and just as a reminder, we are in that section of Hebrews from chapter 4 through 13, where we're looking at the superiority of Jesus's work. In other words, Jesus's work is better. In the first 3 chapters, it was his person is better. Now his works are better. And we're picking up, resuming a discussion that actually began in chapter 5 about this kind of mysterious, enigmatic sort of character in the Old Testament by the name of Melchizedek. So he was introduced in chapter 5, where it said that Jesus was of the order of Melchizedek. If you want to find out some of the background about this character, I'd encourage you to read Genesis chapter 14, verses 18 through about 24. And you'll find out about this person who just kind of bursts on the scene. And that's the writer here is talking about in verses 1 through 10. Kind of describes this character. He's the king of Salem, a city named Salem, later known as Jerusalem, city of peace. And he's also the king of righteousness. So how do you get this out of Hebrews chapter or Genesis chapter 14? Well, Melchizedek is actually kind of a hyphenated name. Melchizedek is the Hebrew word, or the Hebrew words that put together. Melchi is king of. Tzedek is righteousness. So he's not only the king of Salem, but he's the king of righteousness as well. And as he talks about his background, or lack of a background actually, his lack of a genealogy, the writer says that he is apparently an eternal priest. An eternal priest. Notice he goes on to say that this eternal priest, this king of Salem, king of righteousness, blessed Abraham. And it's always the greater that blesses the lesser. So it's indicating that he's greater than Abraham. He also received tithes from Abraham, and to a certain extent, Abraham being the federal head of the whole nation of Israel, received tithes from the Levites as well, that priest. So got this very interesting character, king of Salem, king of righteousness, received blessing or blessed Abraham and received tithes from Abraham. Well, in verses 11 through 22, then this is expanded some more, and we see that Melchizedek is this greater priesthood. So he brings in a new law. As I said, he was eternal. Jesus then is a priest like Melchizedek. He brings in a new law, a better law, and Jesus was attested by an oath from God. This is my son. And he quotes Psalm 110. Now, Psalm 110 is the most quoted Old Testament text in the New Testament. So he quotes 110 as an oath. Then it says that Jesus brings a better covenant, which we're going to expand on that a little later in a subsequent chapter. But he's saying that Jesus is this new priest, a priest of the order of Melchizedek, not like an Abrahamic, Aaronic, Levitical priest. He's a priest of a greater order, an eternal priest, a priest that's bringing in a new law. And verses 23 to 28, he's a permanent priest. Therefore, he saves permanently. And since he's an eternal priest and he's at God's right hand, he's always interceding. In other words, he secures salvation eternally. Jesus is the eternal high priest from a superior line. So principles here. Again, I think the Hebrews and us need to be reminded not to drift, not to neglect the Lord, not to fall back into old rituals, or in our case, perhaps old ways of thinking, old ways of looking at the world. If we drift from the Lord, we drift into the world. There seems to be no in between, and there's no place where we just stay the same. Either we're drawing nearer to the Lord or we're drawing nearer to the world. Either we're thinking more about heavenly things and bringing a heavenly perspective to the earth, or we're thinking about earthly things and looking at things from an earthly perspective. So, the application for us, brothers and sisters, is obvious. It's to embrace Christ. It's to go on with him. It's to move ahead in our understanding about him. To not give up, to not grow weary. It's kind of the message of Hebrews, is don't go back. And that's the message to us. So God bless you. A short study today. And tomorrow we'll be looking at Hebrews chapter 8 as we approach the end of this week. God bless you, brothers and sisters.